want you to close your eyes for a second. Actually, you may be driving or walking, so don't close your eyes. But I want you to imagine something. There is a 7-year-old girl. She's outside. She's found an open space and a skirt that catches the wind just right. And she's spinning, arms out. No agenda, no audience, no one to impress. She's not thinking about whether this is appropriate. She's not thinking about her career trajectory, her personal brand, or whether joy is something she's earned today. She's just completely, joyfully, ridiculously alive. That girl is me. And I spent a very long time making her smaller. Welcome to the Miles to Zen podcast. Conversations shaped by curiosity, creativity, and connection. I'm your host, Shannon Miles Halliday, and this show is where we explore new possibilities and embrace the wild, beautiful, ever-unfolding adventure of being human. Today, I want to talk to you about joy, not the reward kind, the whole point kind, the feeling alive kind. And I'm going to bring some of my favorite thinkers along for the ride: Gay Hendricks, Brené Brown, the Dalai Lama, Danielle Pink, and a researcher named Barbara Fredrickson, because the research backs this up. And so does everyone I have ever actually had a real conversation with. So I want to say something before we go any further. My life has genuinely been adventurous and fun and tons of awesome experiences, solo travel to places people dream about, a career that took me from aviation to clean energy to stages and places I never expected to find myself in, a wonderful partner, beautiful son, animals, nature, coffee, journals. And I'm not telling you a hard luck story today. I'm telling you a coming home story, because even inside a great life, there's a version of you that gets a little quieter over time. And not because anything is terribly wrong, or it could be, but because the world is loud and practical and full of sensible next steps. And sometimes the life train hits, which I'll go into. And one day you look up and realize the part of you that used to spin in fields has been waiting very patiently for you to come back and get her. That is what this is about. What if following your heart is a rebellious act? Not a rebellious in blowing everything up kind of way. I mean, consistently, sometimes terrifyingly, choosing what is true for you over what you were programmed to choose. We all come through childhood with a set of programs, powerful ones, and they tell us what is safe, what is dangerous, what is acceptable, what's embarrassing, what's shameful. That one's really tough. Who we're allowed to be and who we are definitely not allowed to be. And some of those programs are useful. They keep us safe. And some of them are quietly costing us our joy. And there is a whole generation of us raised by people who came out of the Depression, World War II, or another war, or their parents did, and people who knew real hardship and scarcity. And the message they passed on, with the very best of intentions, was that life is hard. Serious people keep their heads down, their joy quiet, their ambitions practical. And I absorbed that. I think many of us did. And I still pushed against the edges of it. I wanted to save the planet. I interned at the United Nations in Geneva. I did school, and then I did more of it. I tried to do the big, serious work. And when those doors were not what I always thought they would be, I did what practical people do. I pivoted. I still followed my heart to a big extent at the time, and I built a career in clean tech and leadership, and I was genuinely good at it and proud of it and love so many of the people I worked with. And somewhere in the middle of all of that, I got very, very good at being the duck. You know, perfectly calm on the surface, paddling furiously underneath. And it's okay for moments of action, but to continually do that is tough. So I kept my head together at work while navigating things nobody could see. Physical struggles that made me look fine while I was really in it, postpartum depression after my son was born, surgeries that left me walking so slowly across crosswalks that people would honk because I looked healthy and they assumed I was just being difficult. Nobody knows what is happening underneath. And that is one of the great realities of being human. We all carry things that do not show on the outside. And we have become so practiced at looking fine that we forget to put some of it down. These I think of as life trains. And life trains can hit unexpectedly. An injury, a loss of a loved one, loss of a job, that moment or series of moments when life stops being something happening around you and starts being something you are experiencing directly. When you get knocked so far off the tracks of your life, you may never get back to who you were before. And I don't expect we were meant to. Because what life trains do when you let them is they strip away everything that was never really you in the first place. The performing, the pretending, the I am fine, I can handle this. And what's left is closer to who you really are than anything else. And for me, what was left was creativity, art, writing, photography, a whole world I had not made enough time for since childhood because I was too busy being practical. When how I defined myself was upended, I needed to find joy in what I could still do. And what I could do still turned out to be creative things. Those things saved me. Creativity is not a hobby. It's not something you do when everything else is done. It's a lifeline. And for a lot of us, it's the thing that we abandoned first when life got serious. And it's the thing we need the most when life gets hard. And for you, it might not be painting or writing. It might be dancing, cooking, building things, walks in nature where you observe things, playing music, those things that stop time. And I want to be honest about creativity, what creativity meant for me, because it was not just a nice hobby I rediscovered. The physical things that used to define me, the sports, the activities, the way I moved through the world and my body, those things got taken away for quite a while and never got back to the point that they were before. And that was its own kind of grief. When you cannot do the things that make you feel like you have to find out who are you without them. What I found was that I had always been someone who liked to capture beauty, take pictures, watch paint blend on a canvas, sit comfy with a journal and write and make up beautiful stories. Those things were always there. I had just been too busy being serious to let them matter. They turned out to matter enormously. I have a phrase I keep coming back to, the rewilding of self. Rewilding in nature is the process of returning the land to its natural state, letting animals come back, letting the ecosystem restore itself, letting things grow the way they were always meant to grow before we decided we knew better. And I did a couple podcasts on that. If you look back for rewilding, you'll find it. And that is what I'm talking about for us. Coming back to yourself, to what is true, to the version of you that existed before the programming started. And here's what I've learned. It's not about blowing up your life. It's not about quitting your job tomorrow or moving to a farm or an island. It's more subtle than that. It's about getting still enough to hear yourself. Your body is already talking to you. Your gut is already sending signals. The chills you get when something feels aligned, the heaviness in your chest when something is wrong, the stranger who said exactly the right thing at exactly the right time. Whether you call that intuition or biology or spirit or God, it doesn't matter. It's real, it's intelligent, and it's trying to guide you. And when it's truly time to make a big move in your life, you will know it. It will not feel like a crisis. It will not be a decision you have been agonizing over for years. It will feel choiceless. That is how you know. And here's what I want you to notice about everything I just described: the creativity, the paint on the canvas, the journal with the coffee, the rewilding, coming home to what is right for you. That is joy. Not joy as a destination, not joy as something you earn at the end, joy as the actual texture of a life lived from the inside out, just like the movie. When I picked up a paintbrush, I wasn't just doing a hobby. I was finding my way back to myself. And finding my way back to myself was finding my way back to joy. And maybe that is what joy actually is. It's not a finish line, but it's that feeling that shows up when we're deeply connected again, connected to ourselves, connected to other people, connected to the present moment, connected to what makes us feel fully alive. So, if joy is so good for us, and I deeply believe it is, why are we so terrible at letting ourselves have it? Well, we have a glass ceiling for joy. Gay Hendricks, who I had the absolute pleasure of interviewing on this podcast, calls it the upper limit problem. We each have an invisible set point for how much happiness, love, and joy we can tolerate before we feel uncomfortable. And when life gets too good, we unconsciously self-sabotage. We pick a fight, we get sick, we create drama. We bring ourselves back down to that level of stress that feels familiar. We literally sabotage our own joy because somewhere deep and usually unconscious, we have decided we do not deserve this much of it. And here is where Daniel Pink comes in. Daniel's the author of The Power of Regret, and he surveyed more than 20,000 people across 109 countries, asking them what they regret the most. One of the biggest findings was people regret what they did not do far more than what they did. And this gap grows as we age. The most common regret of all across every culture and every country was not taking the risk, not speaking up, not taking the trip, not starting the podcast, not starting the thing. Regret is often showing you where you walked away from joy rather than towards it. It shows you exactly what your soul was asking for that you ignored. And what Pink says, regret is not something to avoid. Treated properly, it's information. It's not to spiral you into depression. It clarifies what you actually value. And that's a great thing. And when you listen to it, it points you towards the life you actually want, no matter how old you are. The negative feeling has information on how you want to live going into the future. So if you're sitting there right now, feeling the weight of something unexperienced, not done, a missed opportunity, that's wonderful information that your internal compass is working. So lean into that. And then there is Brené Brown, one of my faves, who's spent decades researching what it means to live wholeheartedly. She found that joy is actually the emotion we're most afraid to feel. Not grief, not anger, not fear, joy. Because to feel real joy is to feel completely vulnerable. And the moment that we feel that open-hearted aliveness, most of us instinctively armor up. We start what she calls dress rehearsing tragedy. I love this moment so much, and your brain immediately goes to imagining something terrible happening. Or work is going beautifully and you think, oh, this is too good. Something is about to go wrong. And I totally have done this. Most people I know have. This is our ego stepping in and trying to protect us. And we've learned, as Brené says, to beat joy to the punch before it can betray us. But the punch hurts just the same whether we planned for it or not. And in the meantime, we have robbed ourselves of that present moment and those moments of joy. And then there's the Dalai Lama, whose perspective is both completely different and completely complementary. He teaches that joy is not a feeling that comes from outside of you. It's not the material thing. It's not the promotion, it's an inner state, something you cultivate through warmth and genuine connection with other humans. And this brings me to something that happened on a business trip years ago. I was in France, going to or from Bordeaux, I think, on the West Coast, anyways. And I met a man whose job was extraordinary. He delivered luxury yachts to clients, like for a living. He sailed these beautiful vessels to people who had just bought them. And he told me something I have never forgotten. He said, every single time I deliver the yacht, the client is over the moon. And then something shifts and they go quiet. Sometimes it's just a millisecond, but I observe it and I ask about it. And more than once, they have said to me, I thought it would make me happier. A yacht that they wanted, that they worked for, that they bought, and it didn't do the thing they thought it would do because the joy was never in the yacht. The joy is never in the material thing, the true joy. The Dalai Lama knew it. Gay Hendricks knows it. Danielle Pink's 20,000 people proved it with their regrets. Joy is a practice. It's not the reward. And the radical good news is that it's available to each and every one of us right now. Not when you have the dream vacation, not when you hit the goal, not when you finally earn enough. Right now, in this moment, it's available. And interestingly, and of course, the science agrees. Researcher Barbara Fredrickson has spent decades studying what genuine positive emotion and the human connection do to the body and the brain. And her team tracked hundreds of couples over 30 years and found that the quality of genuine human warmth and connection in a single 15-minute conversation predicted dramatically lower mortality rates 3 decades later. So her work shows that joy literally broadens our thinking, increases our creativity, and improves health. Moments of real human warmth are not soft extras to life. They are part of what keeps us healthy. And one more thing from her research. It's not just the people you love deeply who carry this effect. It's strangers, weak ties, the barista who genuinely smiled at you this morning, the person in the elevator who asked how your day was and actually waited for the answer. Those tiny moments matter and are linked to lower levels of loneliness and better mental health. And we're not lonely because we don't have enough friends. We're lonely because we have stopped being genuinely present with humans in front of us. Funnily enough, I was editing this in a coffee shop because when you work from home, you need real humans in person. And Fredrickson's data is clear that the connection that keeps us alive happens face to face. Coming back to real human presence is actually a necessity for health. So we know that science agrees, and joy is so much bigger than just one study, and human connection is only one doorway into joy. Creativity is another, nature is another, meaningful work, presence, play. The point is not the category. The point is the feeling, that alive feeling we have been taught to postpone. So we are talking about real joy, what it feels like, not a performed version for social media. I mean the in your bones feeling of being fully alive. So many of us have been taught to treat joy as a reward, something you earn after you've been productive enough, sacrificed enough, proved yourself enough. And joy is the compass. It tells you whether you are moving toward your truth rather than away from it. And I know what you might be thinking. Some people are really suffering, Shannon. How can you talk about joy? And I hear you. I'm not talking about performing happiness when you're in pain. So many of us have lived too much of the hard stuff, and some people have lived really, really hard stuff to be selling you that. And I know some people are really in it right now. What I'm talking about is this. Even in the middle of hard things, Even when the life train has hit, there are small moments. Small ones. A child laughing, an animal doing something ridiculous, the sound of an ocean, a warm blanket if you're in hospital, a song that catches your attention. Those moments are not distractions from real life. They are real life. And joy is contagious. I was lucky. My mother knew this before any scientist could have told her. She could walk into a room full of grumpy people and shift the energy entirely just by bringing her warm, lit up self into the space. And when we were kids and things got tense, she would call a Mount St. Helens. And we'd all scream and yell and let it out and explode, and something shifted. And we moved into fun. She was genius at that. And now I know the science behind what she was doing. When you smile at someone genuinely, they don't just see your smile, they feel it. And within seconds, they are smiling too. Not because they decided to, but because their nervous system caught yours. Research tracking 5,000 people found that happiness spreads 3 degrees of separation. Your joy does not just affect the people in the room, it affects their friends' friends. People you will never meet are measurably affected by whether you choose joy today. And you don't need to feel guilty for feeling good. You don't need permission from your circumstances or from that voice in your head that tells you that joy has to be earned. Wouldn't you rather have a terrific life than spend it worrying about what someone else thinks of your life? Joy is not the reward you get when you have finally done enough. It's the whole point. That 7-year-old girl or boy outside having a blast, she did not leave. He did not leave. They never left. She's right there in front of you right now, and she's been waiting very patiently for you to remember her. She already knows the way home. You just have to let her lead. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. If this message resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe. It truly helps build this channel, and I appreciate it so much. Have a great week, everybody. This podcast was created and produced by Shannon Miles Halliday with original music by Anna Vovziniak.